And I mean, really, like, what is curiosity in a relationship?
I mean, on its most basic level, I think curiosity is wanting to know more, is knowing that you don't know everything about the person.
It's the constant continuing to discover.
Yeah, it's
not just like learning the facts when you first start to get together. It's just we go through transitions all of the time, every day, actually. And when you're really zoned in on being curious about the experience continuously, it's so good for emotional and physical intimacy and deeper connection in intimate relationships. It's one of the things we're constantly processing in our couple sessions, or even talking about in the model, in the relationship renovation model and at-home program, is all of these questions are designed to get curious about each other because we stop asking each other these questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So curiosity is being interested. It's messaging that you matter to me. I mean, because if I'm curious about something, I think of even like, the image of like, almost like looking at an object and trying to discover more about it. Like you're turning it around. You want to like understand it. You want to get a deeper grasp of what it is, and that's so important in relationship, because we really start to just like feel like we know everything about our partners. That's another thing that happens oftentimes in our method when people are going through it, and we have them ask these questions of each other about their past. And you hear so often a couple say like, we know everything about each other.
Right.
And it's like, gosh, like, really?
Well, I think, okay, so why we're doing this podcast, why we're spending however many minutes talking about curiosity, why it matters. And I can say this, when couples come in, they really feel alone for the most part. They feel like their partner has stopped seeing them. They've stopped seeing their partner. They're just kind of filled with a lot of sadness, confusion, resentment, you name it. And so curiosity is really important because it makes you feel like you're seen in the relationship. It makes you feel like you matter. Makes you feel like not that you're a priority. Yes, other things are a priority, job and kids and the home, but that I'm also a priority. And it's just a little example. So my sister may or may not have melanoma right now. It's a really scary time. And we've been waiting weeks for this pathology lab to come back. And every single day, every hour, I'm thinking about it. I'm texting her. And when you asked me how I was doing, like, hey, what's happening for you right now? Like, have you heard anything about your sister? I felt like, oh my gosh, thank you. Because I was kind of alone in it in my head. I wasn't talking about it. But when you ask me, it's like, oh, you really do care about my process. And it feels really connecting.
These are ways in which you can cultivate curiosity in your relationship.
Which again, cultivating curiosity allows you to be seen, allows you to feel important, and allows you to build that deeper connection that we all want, that we all felt at one time. But we have to remember, we go through things every day, every hour throughout our relationship, but we stop thinking about that. We just focus on that beginning and who that person is and who the person we fell in love with was. And then we kind of like stop.
Yeah.
And our brain does that, right? On purpose to conserve energy. We're saying we have to be really intentional about how to be curious. And it's not this big, huge gesture. So we are going to give you some practical ways on being curious. And it's not carving out 30 minutes a day to be curious. That would be great. It's just in the mornings. What's the mood like today? How are you feeling? Hey, I noticed that you had a rough time sleeping last night. Tell me more about that.
So we know in order to create new habits, you have to create systems. Like that's a big thing in our method is like, you cannot just depend that you are going to like organically think about it and be like, oh, I should be curious right now. Like, do we have 5 minutes after breakfast?
Alexa?
Yes. that the most important thing is that, one, you guys sort of look at one another and you're like, okay, I heard this podcast today and they were talking about the importance of being curious. And I remember how good that felt. Right. So the first thing is you're presenting it to your partner. You're saying, like, is this something that we want to cultivate in our relationship? And hopefully there's an agreement there. You know, there's like, yes, that is something. I would love for you to ask me questions. I would love to I would love to have you help me come into the moment. So you first make an agreement that, yes, we're going to cultivate curiosity together.
And you can even talk about like ways curiosity has changed in your relationship. You can talk about how, wow, we used to be really curious about each other and each other's work days and what in the world happened. And it's just kind of this reflection of it. So that way, when you are cultivating it, you have a really good understanding that maybe it used to be present in your relationship and somehow it has narrowed down, which is totally normal and inevitable. But like, hey, that would feel really good. Like, what would that feel like for you? What would that feel like for us?
And so for me, like, I think before you get into, oh, let's be curious about each other every day, I think you need to start with achievable goals.
Yeah.
And I'm saying like something like a once a week scheduled thing for me is like important. And Tara will throw in her suggestions as well. But, you know, one thing that we have consistently done throughout our relationship is we've had a few different, like we had the book of ifs, and we've used apps and, you know, but just conversation starters and questions that cultivate our connection. And so I think like a wonderful thing to do is to grab a book, you know, like that, or look for a relationship app. There's one called Paired that we partner with. That's excellent. And you say, like, once a week, we're going to sit down for 15 minutes. We're going to go outside and have a cup of coffee on Saturday mornings, or we're going to have a glass of wine together on Saturday night, or Wednesday, the kids are here and we're going to do this. And you scheduled this like weekly thing. And that's, or even, you know, we have our relationship renovation at home program where built into it are lessons that you're doing, you know, weekly or regularly, where you're sitting down and you're asking each other questions. Because I really do think for some people, being curious is like, it's sort of, they're relearning the skill, because early on in our relationship, we have like all this sexual attraction. We have chemicals flowing through our body that are sort of assisting that curiosity happening. And I think in some ways, like, we need a little bit of help. You know, we need sort of a structure to reignite that curiosity.
And yes, I like the structure. I'm also a big fan of like, okay, like setting an intention for myself in the morning, right? I'm like, okay, like I'm going to make sure I check in with EJ. I'm going to make sure that I ask him at least a few things this morning to see how he's doing. How was the gym? What was the workout like? Because I truly feel like the scheduled time is great. I also know how challenging that is for many people. And so it's like, even in the morning, like, how did you sleep last night? Just like these little itty bitty questions. Yeah.
But how does somebody like remind themselves to do it and get into that new habit?